Have you ever stood in front of a door, your hand on a freezing cold doorknob, heart pounding with hope that what lies beyond is the place you truly belonged? I have. I thought it was a grand castle, stone walls covered in green moss, towering spires rising proudly through a misty veil, promising warmth, love, and deep connection. But when I pushed the door open, the sound of the latch echoed like a sentence being passed, and I realized I wasn't a guest. I was a prisoner. That's the abuse from a narcissist, not a horned demon with a tail, but an illusion wearing a human face, a ghost haunting the darkest hallways of your mind. It's not just a story of betrayal, it's a maze carefully crafted to make you lose your way, question your reality, and forget the light that once guided you there. I've stepped into that castle not once but many times in my life, with a lover, a best friend, even the shadow of my own family. And I bet you have too. At least once you've felt the cold from those walls seep into your bones. Today, I'm not here to tell you a story of collapse. I'm here to walk you through the journey of escape. Not by smashing the doors down or burning the castle to the ground in rage, but by reclaiming every shattered piece of yourself, every brick they stole to build their throne of lies. This isn't a video about surviving the nightmare, because surviving is just existing, and you deserve so much more. This is about coming back to life, rising from the ashes, and stepping out with wings ablaze that no one can ever extinguish. Imagine me as the one holding the lantern, guiding you through these dark corridors. I've walked them, I know how terrifying they are, but I also know there's a way out. You don't have to believe me just yet. Just sit down, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to dream of the day you walk out that door, not as someone running away, but as a warrior returning from the battlefield. Are you ready? Let's begin. Imagine you're a sailor on an old wooden ship, adrift in the vast, dark ocean. The wind starts to howl and the waves slam against the hull like giant hands trying to drag you under. You grip the wheel tightly, sweat mixing with rain streaming down your face, doing everything you can to keep the ship from capsizing. Then the captain steps in, the one you trusted completely, the one who promised to lead you through the storm. But instead of offering direction, he looks you straight in the eye, his voice icy cold. "This storm is your fault. If you weren't so useless, we'd be safe by now." You know that's not true. You saw him steer the ship into the rocks, you heard the wood splinter under his hands, and yet somehow, when he turns his back, you're still standing there, asking yourself, was it really my fault? Did I do something wrong? That's what narcissistic abuse does. It's not just a storm that crashes around you, it's one that rages inside your mind, making you question your own eyes, your ears, your heart. It's not the kind of wound you can point to. There are no bruises to show in court, no recorded insults to use as evidence. No, it's more subtle, more cruel. They call it gaslighting, a word that sounds clinical, but in reality it's a wicked game where they ignite a fire in your mind, then blow it out and convince you the light was never there. You fall into a spiral of whys. Why did they say they loved me? Only to hurt me. Why do I feel like I'm going crazy? Why can't I remember what happened yesterday, even though I know I'm right? I've been there, not just once, but for hundreds of long, restless nights. I turned into a detective spiraling out of control, like Sherlock Holmes trapped in his own nightmare. I saved emails, took screenshots of messages, documented every time and date like an obsessed investigator trying to solve a crime that no one else believed existed. I had folders on my phone, stacks of handwritten notes, all just to prove to myself I wasn't crazy, that what I saw, what I felt, was real. But do you want to know the cruel joke? There was no mystery to solve, just someone standing behind the mirror laughing as I tried to piece together fragments that were never meant to fit. They don't just want to hurt you, they want you to dig your own grave, to pick up the shovel and bury your sanity under the weight of your own self-doubt. I used to think if I could just figure out the why, I'd win. But the truth is, there is no why. Narcissists don't operate on logic or love. They're toxic winds sweeping through your life to drain the light from your soul, leaving you empty-handed, standing in the wreckage wondering what you did wrong. Have you ever done that? Held onto an old message, a scrap of paper, a keepsake, just to remind yourself you didn't imagine it all? If so, nod your head. I'm not here to judge you, because I was you. But here's the first truth I want you to etch into your heart. The storm wasn't your fault. The ship didn't break because you were weak. The person at the wheel was never truly there to save you. They only wanted you to sink with them. And today we begin the journey of stepping off that ship, one step at a time. Now, imagine your mind as a complex machine. Millions of tiny gears turning in perfect sync, keeping you alert, strong, and alive. But then one day, someone throws a metal rod into that machine. The gears jam, smoke rises, and the noise echoes endlessly. That's what narcissistic abuse does to you. Not just to your spirit, but to your body too. I once held a model of the human brain in my hands and thought, this is my biggest betrayer. When you live in a castle of lies, your brain no longer feels like an ally. It becomes a quiet enemy, dismantling you from the inside out. Science calls it the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, a fancy term for what I call the survival alarm system. It's built to protect you, to scream when danger is near, to flood you with adrenaline when it's time to fight or flee. But when you're around a narcissist, that system gets hacked. It can no longer tell the difference between real danger and illusion, so it stays triggered 24/7, even when you're just sitting quietly in your room. I've walked away from arguments with my heart pounding like it was about to explode, my mind blank like a wiped-out chalkboard, and my mouth stumbling over apologies for things I never did. I experienced memory loss, not the kind where you forget where you left your wallet, but the kind where you forget entire pieces of your own life. There were days I woke up, looked in the mirror, and didn't recognize the person staring back. Those eyes were hollow. That face was unfamiliar. Like the narcissist hadn't just stolen my time, but my soul, leaving behind an empty shell asking, where did I go? Have you ever felt like that? Like you're a deer in the woods, ears perked, eyes wide, ready to run at the slightest sound, even if it's just a harmless joke from a friend. That's not oversensitivity. That's your alarm system broken and hijacked. Narcissists don't just mess with your mind. They turn your body into a war zone where every breath is a battle and every night's sleep is a nightmare with no exit. And the worst part? You start believing it's all your fault. You tell yourself, if I were stronger, I wouldn't feel this way. If I were smarter, I wouldn't let them do this to me. But that's the biggest lie they've planted in your head. You're not weak because you're hurting. You're human, and humans aren't built to live in a never-ending storm. Narcissists know this, and they exploit it, turning your vibrant energy into shadows, not to defeat you, but to keep you within reach. But here's what I need you to hear loud and clear. You are not crazy. You are not broken. Your body and your mind are crying out, not because you've failed, but because you've been forced to fight a battle you never signed up for. And today, we begin reclaiming those gears one by one, to get your machine turning again, not just to survive, but to rise. Imagine standing in front of an old fireplace, the flames flickering like a dance between life and destruction. In your hands is a stack of papers, pages filled with the story of your pain, broken promises, nights you cried yourself empty, the moments you blamed yourself for believing, for loving, for hoping. You clutch them tightly, your fingers trembling, because they're not just paper. They're pieces of you, pieces you lived, breathed, and poured your soul into, but then you look into the fire and you realize it's time to let them burn. I did that, not literally, but in my mind I threw that story into the fire. Not because I hated it, not because I wanted to erase the past, but because I didn't need it anymore. The first sign you're breaking free from the castle of lies is when you stop retelling that story, stop digging through the ashes looking for answers, Stop trying to solve a mystery that was never real. A narcissist isn't a puzzle to be solved. They're a mirage in the mirror, a ghost with no flesh, no heart, nothing but emptiness wrapped in drama and manipulation. They create chaos, wild arguments, tear-grid performances, grand promises, all to distract you from a simple, brutal truth. There is nothing inside them, no love to give, no honesty to share, no soul to connect with. I used to think if I could just figure out the why, I'd understand them. But the truth is, there is no why worth chasing. They are toxic winds that pass through your life to drain you dry, leaving you with 1,000 unanswered questions and nothing real to hold on to. Think about it. If you had a keepsake from that relationship, a letter, a gift, an old message, what would you do with it? Burn it? Or keep it like a scar, a reminder of the pain? I'm not telling you to physically set it on fire, but ask yourself, what am I keeping this for? To prove I was once hurt? Or to hold on to a ghost that was never truly real? The first step toward healing isn't anger or revenge, it's letting go. Not with clenched fists, but with a soft exhale, like releasing a weight that's pressed on your shoulders for years. I remember the moment I stopped telling that story. I was sitting with a friend, and instead of talking for hours about what had happened, I just said, "It's over." Not because I forgot, I'll never forget, but because I realized the story no longer held power over me. It wasn't the key to my freedom, it was the chain that kept me stuck. And when I burned it in my heart, the fire didn't just destroy, it warmed me. It felt like a promise that I could begin again. You don't need to understand the narcissist to heal, you only need to understand that they're not worth understanding. They're a void, and you can't fill a void with your tears or your questions. Let the fire do its job. Burn the story and let the ashes fly away. That's the first step in reclaiming yourself. Imagine yourself standing at the door of the castle. The rain has finally stopped, and for the first time in what feels like months, you see sunlight peeking through the heavy grey clouds. In your hand is an old compass, its needle turning slowly, not to point north, but to guide you back to yourself. That's what I found when I began to heal. Not a clear map, but a compass forged from 3 arrows: therapy, truth, and courage. You want to know the secret to escaping the castle of lies? It's not buried in hours of YouTube videos. It's not tucked inside the endless rows of self-help books or saved in the inspirational quotes you've bookmarked on Instagram. Don't get me wrong, those things can be little lanterns along the way, but they're not strong enough to lead you through this kind of darkness. The real secret lies in a real room with a real therapist, someone who can sit across from you, look into your eyes and say, "I see you, I see your pain, and I'm here to help you through it." I tried doing it alone. Trust me, I failed miserably. I read the books, I watched the videos, I journaled until my hands were sore. But it all felt like shouting into a deep, hollow well, where the echo came back empty and hopeless. You can't escape this castle with half-built tools. You need someone trained, someone who understands the hidden layers of narcissistic abuse, to hold the lantern and guide you through the maze, not because you're weak, but because you deserve support. And here comes the hardest part, but also the most liberating. You have to tell the truth. I remember sitting across from my therapist, hands shaking, throat tight, confessing things I'd never dared to say out loud. I let them cross every boundary I swore I'd never allow anyone to touch. I said, I feel ashamed that I loved them, that I believed in them, that I hoped they would change. Every word felt like a cut. Not to wound me, but to slice through the chains that kept me trapped in that castle. And when I finally said it all, I felt a crack open inside me, not to break me apart, but to let the light in, for the first time in so long. Telling the truth isn't just about recounting what happened, it's about admitting that you were hurt, that you lost something, and that you need help to rise again. That's not weakness. That's the most raw and powerful form of courage. The kind of courage a narcissist will never understand, because they've never dared to face their own reflection. You're not broken because you were hurt. You're strong because you dared to love, dared to trust, dared to open your heart in a world that can sometimes shatter it. The narcissist didn't destroy that part of you. They only buried it for a while. And now, it's time to reclaim it. Imagine that light, not a blinding sun, but a gentle beam shining through the cracks in the walls you've built to protect yourself. Therapy doesn't fix you because you're not broken. It helps you remove the bricks the narcissist piled onto your shoulders so you can breathe again, live again, and remember that you are still you, not the shadow they tried to turn you into. Imagine yourself standing in a wide-open field, the wind brushing through your hair, warm sunlight gently caressing your face. Around you, the ashes of the castle of lies still remain, but instead of weighing you down, they've become fertile soil nurturing something miraculous. Your wings are growing back. I used to think I was a victim, a survivor crawling through the ruins, scarred and bleeding, but one day I looked down and realized I wasn't crawling anymore. I was standing, and then I was flying, like a phoenix rising from the very ashes that once consumed me. When true healing happens, you'll feel it, not like a dramatic explosion or a Hollywood moment with epic music. It's quieter than that, deeper than that. The storm inside you settles, not because everything suddenly becomes perfect, but because you no longer need it to be perfect. You start to see life through a new lens, as if you finally opened your eyes after a long, dark dream. I call it the Phoenix moment. When you spread your wings, feel the power in every beat, and leave the ashes behind, not with bitterness, but with gratitude, because they taught you how to fly. I remember the day I realized I wasn't imprisoned anymore. I was sitting with a friend, and instead of retelling the old story, the lies, the sleepless nights, the self-blame, I simply smiled and said, "I'm okay now, not because I forgot. I'll never forget, but because I no longer let that story define me. It wasn't a chain around my neck anymore, it was a scar. And scars don't tell stories of failure, they tell stories of survival. The greatest sign of freedom is when you reclaim your autonomy. Not by seeking revenge or proving anything to the narcissist, but by deciding they no longer get a seat in your life. You don't have to call yourself a narcissist survivor forever. That's not a title you have to wear like a medal. You're a human being, alive, breathing, and free. You don't need to stay in the dark to prove your strength. You are strong because you stepped into the light, not with shaking hands, but with your head held high. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. Where do you want to be? In a warm home, laughing with people who genuinely love you? People who don't need drama or manipulation to keep you close? Or still standing in that broken castle, counting shattered stones, waiting for an apology that will never come? I believe you want the first one, and you deserve it. One day you'll meet someone real, not a demon in disguise, not an angel sent from the heavens, but a trustworthy human being standing beside you in the light, needing nothing but sincerity to connect with you. Healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about turning the past into soil where you plant new seeds. You don't need to stay angry at the narcissist forever. They don't deserve another tear. You don't need to be angry at yourself for believing them. That wasn't naivete, that was courage. Let your wings grow again and rise, not to escape, but to live. Imagine returning to the room where it all began, the dark, cold room where you once listened to the rain pounding against the window like the hammering of fate. But now, sunlight pours through the broken panes, illuminating every corner, warming the once freezing stones. I stand here, not as a prisoner anymore, but as someone who has learned how to turn a prison into a lesson, and darkness into light. The castle of lies does not define me. It's just one chapter in my book, and I hold the pen to write what comes next. You don't have to stay in the darkness for one more second. Not because you're weak, not because you deserved it, but because you are strong enough to walk out. Imagine the moment you push that door open, feel the cool breeze on your face, and hear birds singing instead of thunder roaring. That's not a fantasy. That's your future if you choose it. Live your life, not weighed down by fear or resentment, but with gratitude that you walked through fire and still stand tall, with a new strength to build a world where you are at the center, not someone's shadow. I used to think the narcissist had taken everything from me, but they couldn't take the most important thing, my ability to heal, to love again, to live again. They never had that power, and they never will. The same goes for you. They may have hurt you, but they can't steal the light inside you, unless you let them. Don't let them. Stand up, step forward, and let that light lead you. And if you need a compass to begin, a direction to help you find your way back to yourself, my course is here for you. Not to fix you because you are not broken, not to change you because you are already enough, but to help you remove the final chains so you can stand tall and say, "This is me, and I'm going to live my own life." I see you right now through this screen across the miles that may separate us, and I want you to hear this. You deserve to live, not just survive. You deserve days without tears, nights without nightmares, and moments of laughter without fear that someone will snatch that joy away. I believe in you. I believe you have the strength to walk out of that castle, not on shaky legs, but with your wings wide open. Now, it's your turn to believe in yourself. Step into the light. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. The door is open, and the world is waiting for you. Are you ready? I know you are.